Oh. Oh. Satchinananda Vishwotpattyadi Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Janmadhyasya yatonvayaditarataschaarteshvabhignaswarat Tene Brahmahridaya Adi Kavaye Muhyanti Yatsurayaha Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Mrsha Dhamna Svena Sadani Rasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi Dharma Projita Kaitavotra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam Vastava Matra Vastu Shivadam Tapatrayon Mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim Vaparerishwaraha Sadyo Hridyavarudyate Kritibihi Shushrushubistakshanat. Hari Om, and greetings from Niagara Falls. Satyam Param Dhimahi. This is now the 163rd time that we have chanted this. Or I've chanted this and you've mouthed this. Satyam has a similar connotation to the theme of the 12th section, which is dissolution, which is foundation. Another word is shelter. In this 12th skanda, what we're extrapolating, all that has happened in Bhagavatam has come and gone, including Bhagavan Krishna. But what has not come and gone is Satya, is existence, awareness, joy. And that's why Dhimahi means to contemplate on this, for us to feel that the only resort in our lives that are coming and going is Sat, is existence, awareness, joy. Or we chant Satchidananda Rupaya, the form of existence, awareness, joy. Many of us are educated. We have a formal education in engineering, in law, in business, and so on. Yet, when we need help, we keep asking for help from others who need help. And that help, that need for help is compounded. If you remember in the 10th skanda that focused on Bhagavan Krishna, even when those villagers needed food, they would go to Bhagavan Krishna. They would find their shelter in Bhagavan Krishna, and he would find them food. That specific scene where the Brahmanas didn't give food, but the Brahmanis came from their homes and gave food. I share this because has our formal education helped us to find shelter in the truth? This education, this informal education, certainly has. In the 12th section, the 6th chapter is where Rishi Brihaspati is sharing with Raja Parikshita's son insights about dying. Janmajaya, Raja Janmajaya, so angry that his father was killed, that he had died. So Rishi Brihaspati is sharing insights into this. And the one insight that we emphasized was, the less possessive you are, the more you age and die gracefully. And sharing this differently, if you're holding on to less things, you're more agile then. But if I imagine I had this backpack on and I'm carrying this book and then I had to play freeze tag with you, I'd be so slow. You'd catch me right away. But without this backpack and book, you can't catch me. Even with my dhoti, I can be agile. So to be less possessive is what Rishi Brihaspati teaches. And this chapter was completed where what the vision of not just Bhagavatam, but the vision of Shastras, the scriptures of Sanatana Dharma, is. And I'd given you that genesis, that our Shastra begins with nada. Does everyone remember that? Nada, when Bhagavan Narayana had given birth to Bhagavan Brahma. He is the creator of creation. He's our original parent. He felt this presence inside of him, and this presence became more and more and more manifest. And then we had ended with, oh no, we had gone further in expression. Further, Gayatri. Remember I said we're at Chinmaya Gayatri right now? Oh yeah, Vivekji, but that was last week. You know Bhagavatam's coming to a completion, yes? And you're going to say, oh, 168 weeks ago, what are we supposed to know? Gayatri. The meaning of Gayatri is Gayanam Trayate. That which sung helps one to cross over fear. This Trayate is specifically about fear, just like when there's darkness, we have more fear, outward fear. There could be a pothole, there could be a stranger, but Gayatri mantras relating to bringing light and brightness into life. When you can see that pothole, it's less fearful. You can drive around it. When you know that's not a stranger, but it's your spouse, you're not as afraid. You're still afraid, but you're not as afraid. So this chapter ends with the emphasis of Gayatri, Gayatri mantra, from nada to Gayatri. We continue into the 7th skanda, the 12th skanda, the 7th adhyaya. This chapter is tuning into what are the characteristics of our Puranas. I hope you're trying to make that connection. In chapter 6, it is a vision of all scripture. But in chapter 7, what is the vision of a particular scripture, which is the Puranas? Like Bhagavata. Bhagavatam is a Purana. I am reading verse 6, and this is where Rishi Ugrashava is teaching Raja Shaunaka. They're in this elaborate ritual. The dialogue is now, in this ritual, there's a group of people who are asking questions about life, and Rishi Ugrashava is answering. Adhiyanta vyasa shishyat samhitam matpitur mukhat ekaikam aham etesham shishya sarvasa madhyagam. Here's the English translation. Verse 6, chapter 7. Each of them studied one of the 6 anthologies of the Puranas from my father, Roma Harshana, who was a disciple of Sri Vyasadeva. I became the disciple of these 6 authorities and thoroughly learned all of their presentations of Puranic wisdom. What is being shared in this verse again? Rishi Vyasa, he taught 6 Puranas to 6 different students. And these Puranas were all learned by Roma Harshana. Roma Harshana, or Rishi Roma Harshana, is the father of Rishi Ugrashava. So far, so good? And Rishi Ugrashava learned each of these Puranas. So he's almost sharing with Raja Shaunaka, this is why I'm sharing with you, because I've learned this from a teacher, who learned this from a teacher, who learned this from a teacher. So our Puranas are not casual subjects. I'm specifically highlighting this verse as we're completing Bhagavata. Rishi Shuka is gone now. Raja Parikshita is gone now too. So the main student and teacher in Bhagavatam have moved on. This is all being tied together for us. So a few reflections before we move to the next chapter. Right at the beginning, when we began our course, there were 6 questions that were asked. The first one was about goodness, the next 4 were about avatara, and the last one was about dharma. The 6th question was, where does dharma live? Because Shri Krishna, Bhagavan Krishna, is not with the people the way he was. And what is being shared here in a very abstract way, Bhagavan Krishna is the creator, and he has infused dharma into creation. Shared differently, dharma is in philosophy. For us, that's the Upanishad. But this has now been infused into not a philosophical map, but an educational map like the Purana, specifically Bhagavata Mahapurana. So the direct answer is being given here. Where does dharma live? In Srimad Bhagavatam. From the creator, he put it in creation. From the Upanishad, this has now been infused into Srimad Bhagavatam. So now all 6 questions have been answered. So if I ask you what the answers are to these 6 questions, you have them, yes? We continue to chapter 8, and I've been mentioning his name in different ways. Who does chapter 8 focus on? Which Rishi have we not explored thus far? Markandeya. Yes, we now get to formally learn about Rishi Markandeya. I'm in chapter 8. We are reading verse 35. 8:35. Deve Bhagavato Rupe Naranarayana Vrishi Drishtvo Tat Ayadarena Uchaihi Nana Mangena Dandavat. Here too, it is Suta, or more formally known as Rishi Ugrashava. And who is he speaking to now? Shaunaka, to Shaunaka. But I keep describing him as Raja Shaunaka because he is awesome. One with a lot of responsibilities. Here is some insights into this. Shaunaka, Raja Shaunaka, on behalf of all of the people gathered in this ritual, shares, we have heard about a unique personality named Rishi Markandeya. Now, we've come across this name a lot. Markandeya became Mark. So all of the marks you know have come from Markandeya. Yes, it's right there. So we have heard about Mark. Mark has come from Markandeya, so we've heard about him. And we have heard a very unique detail about him, and that is he has seen Pralaya. This chapter, this section is focusing a lot on dissolution. But it's like I tease you. If I ask you what time did you sleep and you tell me you slept at 11:30, you're awake to know you are not sleeping. So here, if there's Pralaya, there can't be Rishi Markandeya. But Rishi Markandeya, we have heard, has seen this, so we don't understand this. Please explain. And Rishi Ugrashava, he says very beautifully, the answer to it lies in the narration and glories and actions of the Lord, which destroys the evil effects of the age of Kali. Sometimes when someone asks a question, they feel really good about themselves, like they're special. But here, Rishi Ugrashava is sharing how the answer is special. Not the answer, but the answer is special because in this, we get to remember Bhagavan Krishna. And that's what helps one to be less Kali-oriented or selfish. Here are some insights into Markandeya, Rishi Markandeya. He was awesome. An icon of bhakti. Dedicated, disciplined. I'll read to you some of these points in English. Markandeya was born and brought up receiving all of the purificatory sacraments of the twice-born ones. That means samskaras. He learned the Vedas from his father, observing austerity in the rules of dharma, and practicing daily recital of the Vedas. Everyone, does this describe you also? That's just paragraph 1. I have more paragraphs about his bhakti. He observed unbroken continence, wore matted locks, tree bark, antelope skin, a girdle of kusha grass, and a sacred thread. In other words, he didn't care how he looked. So for us, high attrition already. He carried a staff, water vessel, and a rosary of beads, and for the enhancement of his spiritual merit, worshipped Sri Hari at sunrise and sunset in fire, the sun, the teacher, holy people, and the self. Every day he collected food by alms, offered it to his teacher, and ate of it silently when permitted by him, and observed fast when not permitted. When one goes for bhiksha, there's a lot of formalities and it takes a long time. So sometimes I see smart shishyas who kind of get a little bit of food and eat in the corner before everyone else does, but not Rishi Markandeya. If food is not given to him, then he just doesn't eat. Observing austerities, thus, and practicing the recital of the Vedas, he worshipped the Lord for an unimaginably vast number of years and was thus able to conquer the unconquerable death. If you're looking for the fountain of youth, some say it's in Greece, in that civilization, here's the fountain of youth. Chapter 8, verses 7 to 11. For one to feel that they're not born, and they're going to feel they're not going to die. This was Rishi Markandeya, and then the verse I just read to you, who happened to come there? Rishi Narayana. We have already come across them when I was sharing with you at the beginning of Bhagavatam a list of the avatars that are formally stated. Rishi Narayana were part of this framework. They were incarnation number 4. Out of all of the incarnations stated, they were number 4, they. Now, I had told you that Srimad Bhagavatam is the best commentary on Bhagavad Gita. Who did Rishi Nara Narayana become in the Mahabharata? Who did Rishi Nara become? Prince Arjuna. And who did Rishi Narayana become? Bhagavan Krishna. Rishi Nara Narayana, they're Chiranjeevi, which means they're ever present. So now we're all looking around. You're all Rishi Nara, I'm Rishi Narayana. We should feel that we have access to them. So Rishi Nara Narayana, they came to Rishi Markandeya. And they were so happy, and Rishi Markandeya was so happy too. And they asked Rishi Markandeya what boon he wants. So a couple of more insights before we get into this very famous visualization with Rishi Markandeya. While Rishi Markandeya was living his bhakti-oriented life, who became insecure by his bhakti? Who's always becoming insecure in the Puranas? Indra. He became insecure by Rishi Markandeya. He thought he was doing this for power, when he was only doing this for Bhagavan. So Indra, he has a whole magazine of weapons. Like he changes the weather to become springtime. And he had sent, who is his general? Who's his general in his army? Kama. Kama's his general. He's in the front line. And Kama himself has a whole magazine of weapons. And I just read about this now. Kama has an arrow that has 5 heads on it. You know, like you used to watch in the Mahabharata and Ramayana, where there was an arrow with 10 heads or 30 heads. So Kama has an arrow with 5 heads. And this is we'll call it a poison. Like snakes have a neurotoxin and another one has a nerve agent. These are the 5 arrowheads. Kama aimed at him his 5-pronged arrow, having thinning, inflaming, diluting, heating, and inebriating as its 5 heads. You're all thinking, thinning? I wish I had that arrow hit against me. Here is thinning in terms of your willpower. Okay? I love these details because we're always being hit by this arrow. And as this whole retinue tried to shake Rishi Markandeya, he was not shaken at all. Completely indifferent to all of this. We're studying this in our Tuesday class, being indifferent to negativity. But when Rishi Nara Narayana came, I'll read this to you in English. On seeing the form of the Rishis Nara Narayana, who were the embodiment of the Supreme Lord, Markandeya arose from his seat and with great respect and devotion made a full prostration, laying his body like a stick at their feet. And this part I love even more. With tears overflowing from the eyes, his vision of the rishis were blurred. He was crying out of joy so much that he couldn't even see them. So indifferent towards negativity and so intense towards positivity. Okay, so now the last part we focused on was Rishi Nara Narayana are happy and they ask Rishi Markandeya, what do you want? So now we're in the 9th chapter. We're on verse 6. 9:6. Athapyambuja patraksha punyashloka shikamane drakshe mayam yaya lokaha sapalo veda sadbhidam. In English, O lotus-eyed Lord, O crest jewel of renowned personalities, although I am satisfied simply by seeing you, I do wish to see your illusory potency by whose influence the entire world, together with its ruling demigods, considers reality to be materially variegated. These are very technical definitions. Put very simply, Rishi Markandeya asks for the boon to see Maya. This is what he asks for. We've not really come across anyone who's asked for such a boon. When Rishi Markandeya asks this, Rishi Naranarayana, they go back to their ashram with a smile on their face because of this unique request. Now, all of you, if you meet Rishi Naranarayana, don't ask for this. If you have the bhakti of Rishi Markandeya, then ask away. But if you don't have that protection, please don't ask. If you remember many skandhas ago, even Bhagwan Shiva got confused by Mohini. So we are not Bhagwan Shiva. Okay? So ask how to come out of Maya, not about Maya. Rishi Markandeya, he continued to live with so much bhakti. And one day, he was sitting on the riverbank. So many things in these Indian Puranas happen near a riverbank. And all of a sudden, this riverbank just started to grow and grow and grow. It's almost like in a sad way, what happened in Acapulco. That in 12 hours, this went from a tropical storm to a Category 5 hurricane. This river just started to grow where all of a sudden everything was drowned. And Rishi Markandeya is running to find high ground. And it said that he felt like thousands of years were going by in his running until he found some higher ground. And on this higher ground, there was a tree. And he just rested near that tree. And he happened to look up the trunk, to a branch, to a leaf. And who was on that leaf? Bhagwan Krishna. And unlike what we're typically exposed to, where Bhagwan Krishna is on the waters of Pralaya, that doesn't happen in Srimad Bhagavata. Does not happen. But there's lots of Puranas. It happened in another one. And Rishi Markandeya was so perturbed. And then he saw Bhagwan Krishna that he went to go and hug him. And what did Bhagwan Krishna do? He breathed him in. So Bhagwan Krishna, this tiny infant on this leaf, on this branch, on this trunk, just breathed in, and Rishi Markandeya was gone. And when he was in the body of Bhagwan Krishna, what did he see? What did Devi Yashodhara see in Bhagwan Krishna's mouth? Everything. Rishi Markandeya saw everything. He saw the creation inside the creator. And for anyone who studies Advaita Vedanta, the cause pervades the effect. I told you the Upanishad comes through Purana. And when he was overwhelmed, first he was drowning and overwhelmed in a negative way. Now he was overwhelmed in ashcharya and wonderment. He was breathed out again. In that same scene, he was breathed out again. So he's at the base of this tree. There's a trunk, there's a branch, there's a leaf, there's Bhagwan Krishna. Now he's going to Bhagwan Krishna with a very different sentiment, not for protection, but rather out of gratitude. So he goes to hug him again, and Bhagwan disappears again. But now the whole scene changed, where Rishi Markandeya finds himself in the ashram. What was his boon? What did he ask for? Seeing Maya. And Bhagwan granted him that wish in a very experiential 5D, 10D way. And finally, he was back in the ashram, just like for all of us. We are what we are seeking. That takes us to chapter 9. Next week, we'll cover 2 more chapters. And then from chapter 12 onwards, we begin a very comprehensive and meaningful review of all of Srimad Bhagavatam. Oh. Oh.